All right. So welcome everyone to our information session on the Graduate Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainability, a program where we're learning to make a difference. And my name is Catherine Cooper. I'm the program manager and an instructor in the program. And I'm really looking forward to meeting each and every one of you, hopefully through your application and your participation in the program. This webinar will briefly take you through an overview of the program and introduce you to the program philosophy, our faculty, the esteemed alumni, uh, so the alumni we have in fact with us today are Alexandra Biron, who's Assistant Manager of Corporate Responsibility for Deloitte, and Jordan Pinches, who is the Customer Success Manager at EcoVadis. And questions, as I said, will be taken throughout and at the end, so please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And at the end, we'll have an opportunity to unmute the lines, and so that if you prefer to ask a question, you can ask it at that time. So, as I said, our journey is about, first of all, the business case for participating, because many of you may actually need to make that business case with your workplace. And so I actually even have a slide deck I can share with you if you are interested in that. So that's one thing. And we'll also talk about, as I say, the program approach and philosophy, some of the uniqueness of our faculty, alumni testimonials, as well as our application process. So this is actually, when we talk about the business case, and I think I'm going to make a 4-point business case for the program. This is a picture of recent graduate Jessica Palshat, who is depicted here with her capstone project, which was a CSR strategy for her company. And this is one of the, I guess, the real solid business advantages of this program, that's the opportunity to tackle a project that meets the needs of you and or your workplace. So the impact is through impact assessment and evaluations from more than our more than 250 alumni, we've identified 4 key value propositions for the program. And the first one is how this program opens really new career opportunities for you. So participants have reported that they've advanced to some of these different positions, having graduated or even during the program. In fact, in 2017-18, 2 of our cohort participants started in October, and by Christmas, they were promoted into CSR positions. We can't promise that for everyone, but we've got a pretty good track record that people end up in some really good positions by the time that they're done. The second value proposition is really about the capstone project. The capstone can focus on any topic, but here are some of the topics that people have done in the past. And the capstone is a practical project of your choosing that you work on over a 13-month period of the program. You'll be assigned a mentor leader, someone who has a relevant subject matter expertise in the area that you're focusing on, that can advise you through the process. You'll also have access to the wisdom of your classmates and alumni to gain and activate best practices for your organization and for your career. This is a testimonial from Julie Millard about her capstone project. During the program, she actually developed a CSR strategy for OpenText, a large multinational IT company. And then soon after she graduated, she was promoted to VP of Corporate Citizenship at OpenText. So the third value proposition is that the program provides you practical tools, skills, and confidence to tackle business challenges and opportunities related to sustainability and CSR. You'll be introduced to a number of assessments and frameworks that will enable you to understand your organization's progress. For example, Pam Cohn, who was VP at Milliman when she went through the program, applied during Module 2 the benchmark, the diversity and inclusion benchmark assessment that we provided in that session to her company shortly after the module. And she took the results to the senior management team, and it became a tool that focused their strategy for diversity and inclusion. So it was a very valuable activity for her. It also, the final value proposition is really about building the professional network. Alumni say that the professional network that they gain is really invaluable. And with over 250 alumni from 8 countries from 19 sectors, in both the for-profit and not-for-profit sector, our program delivers really a vast array of CSR and sustainability professionals. Participants range from vice presidents to CSR and sustainability analysts, and we provide continuous learning and networking to our alumni group. We also have a private LinkedIn group, which our alumni belong to, and we stay in contact with each other throughout our careers through that group. Here's an example of our testimonial from Eric Sarvilla, who's a recent graduate, talking about the value of the connections he found through the program. So at this point, you might be asking, how's this program different from other CSR and sustainability graduate programs? And I should say that when we talk about CSR and sustainability, we're also using that ESG word, and we tend to use them interchangeably, particularly given the fact that this area is so fast growing, and we will help you throughout the program understand the difference between them, but they are quickly merging with one another as well. So participants say that our unique delivery method allows you to see that CSR and sustainability are more than the sum of its parts. So here are some of the features. And if you joined the call earlier, you probably heard us talking about BlackRock. This last point that's made on this slide around social purpose being at its core. Responsible investment is on the rise, and leaders like Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, one of the world's largest investment firm, continually asking publicly traded companies to put social purpose, stakeholders, and sustainability at the center of their strategy. And he's publicly stated this now for 3 years in a row. And in one letter he entitled Social Purpose, he actually said to companies, you must demonstrate to us the long-term social and environmental value that your firm is providing to the world. I think that's a pretty strong endorsement of this field and where it's going. Another unique feature is that participants are able to work full-time while they participate in the program. It's set up a bit like an executive MBA program where you're working full-time. And so we will be meeting 3 times in Toronto over a 13-month period for a total of 11 days. So it's 3 days, 5 days, 3 days. And within those 3 sessions, we'll undertake a 3-phase program to enable you to see the big picture, as well as understand the finer details of successful CSR and sustainability implementation. In between the sessions, you'll be reading and doing reflections on our learning management system, meeting with your mentor leader about your assignments and your capstone project, and participating in monthly webinars about practical topics like stakeholder engagement, volunteerism, employee engagement, embedding sustainability, and reporting on climate change and ESG. Also, you'll be completing 2 assessed assignments, a book review, and one where you can choose from 4 different options. So there is a kind of that 3-step approach that I mentioned earlier about how this program is laid out. And so in the first phase, we focus on the foundation of social responsibility and sustainability in the first 3-day session in October. And here are some of the different topics that we'll be addressing. In the second 5-day session, we look at some of the core practical issues that make a successful CSR and sustainability program. And here are some of those topics. And you can imagine if any of the topics that we've discussed so far, they could be a focus of your capstone project, and you can do even a deeper dive on those topics. And then finally, for the 3rd session, which occurs in November, we sort of reintegrate all those pieces through the presentation of our capstone project. So you get to hear what everybody else's capstone project has been about and what they've learned from it. And by examining different worldviews and reconnecting with the role of governance and leadership in the whole implementation process. This last module helps us to consider how we can further embed sustainability and CSR into operations over the longer term. So having said that, all of that, let's talk a little bit now about the program philosophy. So Mimi, you might want to unmute yourself. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Mimi Morocco, and she's the founder of the program. She started it nearly 20 years ago. She's our instructor lead, a mentor, and a 20-year expert in the field of CSR and sustainability. And aside from her expertise, she also brings a unique multidisciplinary reflective approach to this program. We really do focus on critical thinking and systems thinking, and Mimi brings much of that to this process.
Okay, Catherine, am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. So hello, folks. Catherine's introduction, I think, and some of the quotes from our graduates that she's already shared with you, I think have focused on the business case for CSR and sustainability. And I think they've indicated the need for an integrated strategic approach to what I think you'll agree is a very, very significant business issue. So, as Catherine slightly alluded to, you may be wondering why the University of St. Michael's College, which if you've done any kind of research on Google or anywhere else, you would know is not a business school. You might be wondering why this particular college has designed and developed and is offering this graduate professional program. So, you may agree, I think that Einstein was onto something when he pointed out that the really big problems that we face today simply can't be resolved at the same level of thinking that brought us here in the first place. So thinking outside the box is often a term that you would know from your business literature. But using our imagination and taking time to not only think, but also to feel, to engage both our left and right brain, to make connections, to make patterns, to understand context. That's what a liberal arts approach brings. And that's why St. Mike's, through its continuing education division, began offering this program about 20 years ago. And even then, we knew that social responsibility and sustainability were big issues. Now, of course, we know that they're not just big, they are huge. So what we offer participants is a chance to slow down, to take some time away from what are often very, very busy professional lives, and to think, to imagine, to appreciate what not only the business gurus, but the poets and the storytellers and the visual artists and the musicians and the filmmakers, what all of them have to say about what our lives and our planet are really about. So, in fact, one of the required readings focuses on the value of slow knowledge, and it's not a new idea. David Orr's insights provide a valuable entry point for some of the conversations that we'll have for an entire year when we get together. And this is just a brief summary of what David Orr brings to the conversation. Now, in our conversations, we also include not just talk about things like slow knowledge and the arts, but we also read and go to exhibitions, possibly watch a film, so that we include the art perspective in our conversations so that we can appreciate the extent to which empathy has a role to play in both our business and our life decisions. So that's just a brief overview of why it is that a liberal arts college is offering a program like this. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the history of St. Mike's, one of our professors, whom you may or may not have heard of, was Marshall McLuhan. And Marshall McLuhan is known these days as a guru for understanding media, right? And he was one of the ones who first appreciated the implications of things like the World Wide Web. But in fact, Marshall McLuhan's expertise was in metaphysical poetry, in the poetry of 17th century poets. So making the links between the arts, poetry, the understandings that come from the liberal arts, and the very real digital reality that we are confronting today is something that is very much the heart of St. Mike's history and our philosophy as a school. So I would be happy at the end of of our session today to answer any other questions. But I think, Catherine, we're going to move on to some of the more practical things that the program can bring to folks.
Thank you so much, Mimi. And I think, and we'll see what Alexandra and Jordan have to say, but this is one of the more unique features that we think more deeply about the questions that we're asking ourselves in this whole program. Which means the thought leadership is very much part of what this program is all about as well. And Mimi being one of the many instructors that we have in the program that have contributed to thought leadership in this area. So when it comes to understanding a little bit about our faculty, the faculty and the subject matter experts that are in this program come from a variety of different fields in both the for-profit and not-for-profit sector. They're people who either have held positions or currently hold positions in senior management, management consulting, ESG and CSR and sustainability reporting, actually holding positions of director or VP in sustainability and CSR, community investment, diversity and inclusion, organizational development. So these people are on the ground right now struggling with how these things work and sharing their experience and insights with you. And they're coming from a variety of different industries as well: mining, financial services, oil and gas, insurance, IT, manufacturing, and they're joining a group of academics with backgrounds in, as Mimi has indicated, philosophy, literature, ethics, and environmental studies. So it's quite an interesting mix. Here's a sample of some of our faculty, and you can find more of them on our website. And as I say, individuals do have direct practical experience and subject matter expertise in this rapidly changing field of study. And it is rapidly changing. This program changes from year to year along with the way that things are happening and rolling out within the sector. So I think you've heard enough from us at this point. I'd like to invite some of our alumni to speak. So I'd like to introduce you to a couple of our alumni. This is Alexandra Biron, Assistant Manager of Corporate Responsibility at Deloitte. And Alexandra was this year's co-winner of the University of St. Michael's College at the University of Toronto President's Capstone Award for her project entitled Indigenous Impact Report. And then after Alexandra speaks, we'll also have another recent alumni, Jordan Pinches. Jordan is the Customer Success Manager at EcoVadis. And Jordan's capstone was entitled Fundamentals, Flywheels, and Optimizing Sustainable Procurement. I'll let you have him explain that to you, what the heck he's talking about. So over to you, Alexandra. I guess we kind of asked you to say a few words about your experience in the program.
Totally. Thank you, Catherine, and hello, everyone on the line. So just to give a bit of background on my role, I was previously at Civic Action at the Leadership Foundation, and I applied to be a part of the program, and with the hopes of switching back to the corporate sector. And before the program actually started, I landed this position in corporate responsibility at Deloitte, and I contemplated actually pushing the program back a year, just given the transition happening in my life. But I ended up staying within the cohort, and I am so glad I did, because it actually worked out very, very well timing-wise. I think, going into this program with amazing individuals, like-minded individuals from different sectors and backgrounds, it was so important to engage with people on similar topics and help bridge my gap back into the corporate sector. And at the time, initially, when I started my role at Deloitte, I was managing all employee engagement opportunities, so our volunteer portfolio and our leadership development opportunities for our rising leaders, as well as the Deloitte Foundation. But really, my role at Deloitte has significantly changed in the last year because of my capstone project, actually. So I, as Catherine said, I did my report on Indigenous impact. So just to give a little bit of background, at Deloitte, we have tons of paid client work within the Indigenous space. But there was a lot that we were doing outside of paid client work. on the volunteering piece, pro bono, sponsorships, directorships, things like that, but never before was it a focus for the firm. And given my heritage and my passions and interests and the opportunity to leverage this through the program, I actually created the first ever Indigenous Impact Report, which highlighted our societal and community impact within this space. And it received such great feedback when we launched it last spring, and it has led to an even bigger initiative now that essentially we wanted to do more within this space, and specifically around the lens of reconciliation and what the corporate sector can do to advance reconciliation and in response to the TRC's calls to action report. And so we are launching the first ever corporate reconciliation action plan next month, and I have been pushed forward to lead this full time. So what started out to be my capstone in this program has now really shaped my career, and I'm so honored and privileged to be driving this because it is aligning my passions and experience and everything all in one. So that is my story.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. And then over to you, Jordan.
Hi, everyone. So as Catherine mentioned, my name is Jordan Pinches, and so I'll tell you a bit of my story because that was one of my questions or one of the things I would have liked to know when I was in your place thinking about this program. And for me, I was actually in kind of a career pivot when I entered the program. So I had spent some time working in a small consulting firm that focused on strategy and kind of change management, and wanted to get more sort of functionally into sustainability and corporate responsibility, and had been kind of scratching at that for a while. And so ended up entering the program on the advice of someone who I knew who had done it and said it was fantastic and would be a great fit for me in the stage that I was at. And not too long after the program started, I actually landed a role with, my current role with EcoVadis. So in case you haven't heard of us, which I certainly hadn't before I started with the company, what we do is actually in procurement. So we rate companies on their sustainability and corporate responsibility. And then we actually work with their business partners, so companies that are purchasing from them ultimately, to kind of understand and improve their performance in that area. And we work with about 450 or so multinationals and have rated 55, actually close to 60,000 companies around the world in these areas. So that's a little bit about us, but I was kind of unaware of procurement before and was uninitiated to that, but realized actually, and partly through things I was learning in the program, but that actually about 70 to 90% of the social and environmental impact of a business actually happens in the supply chain. So kind of an interesting spot to be, and the program was essential in building one, credibility for me as I was making this shift, and also helping me have a good understanding of the context that I was entering as I kind of made this shift. So in terms of, I'll just say a quick word about my project, or my capstone project, which Catherine mentioned earlier. So it's called Fundamentals, Flywheels, and Optimizing Sustainable Procurement, which I was sort of a tongue-in-cheek name I gave to a project that was wide-ranging and very difficult to actually land. So what I ended up doing was really around, because we work in procurement and are trying to drive the embedding of sustainability into procurement process, which has traditionally been only focused on price, quality, and on-time delivery. We're trying to add sustainability and corporate responsibility as another criteria in procurement ultimately. I did some work, and our company needs to be kind of experts in what sustainable procurement actually is, and kind of what are the key marks of a successful program. So I was able to link up to an existing program or project within our company that was sponsored by a VP to actually kind of figure that out and advance our own thinking around what sustainable procurement really is and what maturity in that area looks like. So it was an interesting journey. So.
Which you learned a lot.
I certainly did. Yeah, it was tough. And one thing I did want to say too is, so you'll have a mentor for the capstone, and that was for me essential. There were many times, because this project was a highly strategic project for us globally, that I was able to link up to and join on. It was a great push to be able to do that and to link up to that strategic program soon after I joined the company. So I got kind of great visibility internally and had some really nice opportunities come out of that, a bit like Alexandra experience related to the project that she did. But my mentor was essential because there were many times throughout where like it's tough. It was really tough to link up and to kind of have both my own deliverables coming out of that project related to our course, and then our organizational deliverables and that were needed for the project. And so there were many times where I wanted to just quit or kind of de-link from that thing that was going on at my organization. But several, maybe even more than several times, I would end up having a conversation with my mentor, who happens to be Catherine, and who would have, fantastic advice or like just the right tweak or refocus at exactly the right moment when I needed it to, like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this. So be encouraged about that.
Thank you. You didn't have to give me the plug. That was great. All right. Thanks. And so these guys are going to stick around for a few minutes. So if you have questions for them, put them in the chat, or when we get, I've got 2 more slides here that talk about the application process. And then if you want to unmute yourself and talk to Alexandra or Jordan, you're welcome to do that. So let's take a moment to talk about the application process, because some of you might have some questions about that. So we have 2 to 3 intakes for the program with a maximum of 35 spaces in the program. However, if all the spaces are filled after the first or even the second intake, then we'll stop. We won't have third intake. So here are the steps for the process. So you can just go to our website and apply online. You'll upload information into the application form, which includes your learning objectives, so we have a clear understanding of what you hope to accomplish through the program, which might include, whether you're trying to make a career transition or whatever those objectives will be. There will be a letter that you will upload as well as a CV. Oftentimes I'm asked what goes into the letter, and I tell people that it's really your opportunity to sell yourself as a good fit for the program. We're looking for people with a passion for making meaningful change to an organization to help make that organization or that industry more socially and environmentally responsible. And to move them to be on the road towards regenerative, being more regenerative. And so therefore, if you could feel like that's kind of where you're coming from, that's a really good fit. Another question I often get asked is who should apply, what kind of people are applying to the program. And there's sort of 3 categories. Number 1 is anyone who may be leading an organization's CSR or sustainability initiatives or some part of that initiative. And it might be somebody who's entirely new. You've been recently tapped on the shoulder and told this is going to be your thing. And you're kind of like a deer in the headlight thinking, how am I going to do this? You're an ideal candidate for this program. Or if you're looking to grow the program or further embed it, and that hasn't been done before. Number 2, anyone who's shifting their career toward purpose. So you might be mid-career and thinking, I want to spend the second half of my career doing something really meaningful, and CSR and sustainability is an area where I want to move my career toward. Then you're a great fit for the program. And then finally, if you're just starting out your career, you might have we've had people that have just graduated recently or have a master's degree, and you're looking for a more practical understanding of what actually goes on to implement and integrate and embed CSR and sustainability within organizations, then that's a good fit for the program as well. So we're really happy that we already have 12 applications. We're going through various stages of approval at this particular point, and we've had 3 people already accept a position in the program. So I would suggest that if you're really interested in the program, that applying earlier for the early deadline, the April 30th one, is a good idea, because I think we will be oversubscribed, which we were at the tail end of last year. Also, we want to recognize that there is a program investment that goes on, and it's quite significant. We know that it's significant in both time and effort and money for your company. So we provide a few different tuition payment options. Many companies prefer the single payment option where they can get it into one budget year. Some companies will share the tuition payment with their employees through the employee development program, so it might be half and half. And in some cases, you might be, as an individual, paying for this on your own, in which case we can negotiate a 2-payment option over the 2 years, and maybe even a 3 if that's warranted. And we do have a few bursaries, but I have to say we don't have a lot of money, but between $500 and $1,000. And if you're interested in a bursary at the time of application, it's a good time to ask for a package. We make those decisions at the end of June so that everyone who is looking for a bursary, we have that in front of us and we can make the decision. And it's usually very much made on need, financial need. So I think that's all that I wanted to talk to you about the investment. And I am seeing that Christine has a question. So I'll ask you to either unmute yourself and be prepared to ask a question. I think you have a little hand that you can raise, and then we can take them in order, and or put your questions in the chat. And I see Christine is asking how much of the tuition costs. I think I just got to that, and the average hours spent on the program. And Jordan and Alexandra, please feel free to jump in on this. I usually tell people that it's an average between 4 and 5 hours a week. It's not like doing an MBA where it's like another 60-hour a week added to your current 60-hour week. However, some of that time is movable. There'll be times when you're working on your capstone project or an assessment or preparing for a module where there'll be many more hours than 4 or 5 hours as you get that preparation done. And there might be some weeks where you might choose, because of your schedule, to not do anything in the program. So there is some flexibility associated with that. Alexandra and Jordan, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think you captured it well. Like on average, I'd say 4 to 5 hours per week. But as much as I tried to keep it consistent week to week, it tended to come in waves, especially around the assignments and capstone and before the modules for sure. But it was definitely manageable working full time as well. So.
Okay. Yes, that resonates for me as well. And I think the helpful point, or the one thing I'd recommend, is if you can link your project, your capstone project, to something that you're doing at work, so you can sort of split some of that time and effort, or kind of match it up well.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I see, Christine, you have a question too about the 353 days. So it's 3 days in October, and those 3 days are always Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The 5 days, it's a Monday to a Friday, and the last 3 days in November, it's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday again, with an option to have people stay on the Saturday, because we always organize that session for just before the graduation ceremony, so you can actually stay on campus and graduate, go through your graduation ceremony and receive your diploma on the Saturday. So that's kind of how we plan it. So we don't actually have any weekends. So it is during work days, unfortunately. Are there other questions that people would like to either unmute themselves or ask on the chat? All right. I'm not actually seeing a flood of questions here. Um, so I think what I'm going to do is, whoops, just want to go back a slide here that give you some instructions on where you can go to apply, or if you need to reach me. So we hope that some of your questions during the session have been answered. And if you want to talk to me about the program, to see if it meets your needs, my telephone number is there, and you can email me and we can set up a time, or we can do a Skype or WebEx call as well. You can also join our email list by going to our website and hitting the subscribe button. And of course, we'd love to see you in the program. So how to apply is you go to our website and there's that little shiny red tab saying apply now, and that's where you go, and that gets the ball rolling. Kyle has a question. He's asking, how does the program hold its weight in Europe, and are there any grads that have moved to relevant roles within Europe? And Mimi, you have some experience with that. In the early days of the program, we've had quite a few people. We've had people from all over the world.
Yes,
but you've had a few.
Germany, Walmart in Germany, for example. We've had folks going back to England, but mostly actually the international students have tended to come from continents other than Europe. So we've had, India. We've had some folks from Africa. The islands, Grenada, St. Lucia, and of course the United
from
States.
Bahamas.
The Bahamas, right. But Europe, there haven't actually been that many people who have gone back to Europe. We've had people who have come from Europe, but then were coming to North America and looking to start careers or continue their careers in a different context.
So hopefully that answers your question. I know there was a gentleman who came from Italy one time. So we've had a handful of people come from
And
Europe.
he ended up staying here, actually. He's still here.
Oh, is that right? Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess a lot of people use it as a way to integrate back into the North American market. People from South America, Costa Rica, we've had people from Latin America as well come up. All right. And is there any plans for a full-time one-year program of this kind? Not at this particular point. There are programs that you can join that are more master's programs. So this is a graduate diploma, and it's really meant for people who are working full-time, who don't want to quit their job to go back to school. But there are programs at the University of Waterloo that is a full-time one-year program. If you connect with me, I'll give you a list of other places that you can go if you want to go full-time, because there are a few. All right, are there any other questions? And if there aren't, I'm going to thank everyone for coming, and hope to see your applications or even further questions over email. And with that, thank you so much, Jordan and Alexandra and Mimi, for joining this session, and thanks to everyone else who took the time off their busy schedule to do that. Thanks for that, and have a great day.
Thank you, Catherine.